Hello, curious. So, as I said in the last video, today we will discuss mathematics. Week 2 mathematics revision. Okay, so in week 1 we discussed about simple things like numbers, segregating them into different categories like natural number, real numbers, rational numbers, irrational numbers, and integers, all of those things. Then arithmetic operations, what is the back end behind them, everything. In the second week, we started with the point and we found a straight line, and also we also learn how to express that straight line into an algebraic equation known as linear equation, okay, which has a degree of 1. And in the third week, it's all about quadratic equations and functions. Now, before starting with functions and equation, we will discover what does quadratic means. So, the word quadratic comes from a term quadrata, which means literally square. Yeah, so quadrata means square. So, anything, any mathematical term which is quadratic has a degree of 2, which is a square. Okay, so the standard quadratic function is f of x is equals to ax square plus bx plus c. So this is the standard form, and ax square is a quadratic term, bx is a linear term, and c is a constant term. So the y-intercept, okay, we are finding the y, so y-intercept is c. Okay, so and the function looks like this. It is curvy. Okay, so sometimes it has a minimum here, sometimes it comes like this, so it will have a maximum. Okay, so let's get started with the slope. We know the slope of the linear equation of line. Okay, straight line की हमें slope पता है. What is the slope? Or y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. Simple, because it was a straight line. But in quadratic function, the slope is not so simple. It's not a constant, it's a variable. At every point of the graph, the slope changes. That's interesting. At every point of this graph, slope literally changes. From here, the slope is decreasing, and when the point reaches here, the slope becomes 0 because it has reached its minimum. And it's also applicable when the graph is like this. When it reaches the maximum, the slope becomes 0. And after that vertex has been reached, the slope becomes positive and it's increasing from here. So that's the beauty of quadratic function. The slope here is a variable which changes with the point along the graph. Okay, so that's interesting. Now what's the standard? Now there will be a formula, right? In mathematics there is a lot of formulas. So there will be a formula to find the slope of quadratic function with ease. Good news, there is a formula. So the formula is 2ax plus b. Now this can be calculated by differentiating the quadratic equation or function, and you will get the slope. But this is a standard form. You can replace the a and the b and the x term and get the slope. Okay, so 2ax plus b is the slope of any quadratic function. Okay, so after that, this point, the point where the graph reaches its minimum or maximum. I don't have a maximum graph here. Yeah, here it is. Maximum. Okay, minimum or maximum, the slope becomes 0, and that point is called vertex. Okay, so at that point the slope becomes 0, and I told you the slope of any quadratic function is 2ax plus b. Now I'm telling that when we reach that the peak point or the lowest point, the slope becomes 0. So this equation which I told you, 2ax plus b, becomes 0. So it's equal to 0, and we have to find the x and y coordinate. In this equation we have x, so let me send those 2a and b over that side where the 0 is, and I will get x is equals to minus b by 2a. That's the vertex and the x coordinate of that quadratic function. Now you can substitute this x value in the existing quadratic function to get the y value, and you will get the point where the graph reaches its maximum or the minimum point. Now one more interesting thing, we have described the equation as ax square plus bx plus c. This is the quadratic equation. Now in this, the a, when the a is positive, which means it is greater than 0, and remember that in quadratic function or equation the a term should not be 0, because if it becomes 0 the quadratic term will vanish and the equation or the function will no longer remain a quadratic function because the square term has been gone. So it can't become 0. It can be less than 0 or more than 0. So when it is more than 0, when it is positive, then the quadratic function will have its minimum point. And when the a becomes less than 0, when it's negative, then we will get the maximum point of the graph. Okay, so this was a quick revision of all the characteristics of function, quadratic function and equation. Okay, so we discussed about all of its properties, a less than 0, all of those things. Then now we come to, let me check here, is there something important which I forgot to tell you? No, there is nothing. Okay, so there are two roots. There will be two roots if there are, sometimes one or sometimes no root at all. Okay, what are the roots? झाड़ है क्या, इसको भी मतलब जड़ें आ गई है क्या, रूट्स क्या, क्वाड्रेटिक फंक्शन के रूट्स मतलब कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा. They are nothing but the x-intercepts. Okay, so this is the graph. It is curvy. Okay, let me fix the lighting so you can see. So this is a graph. It is curvy. It will have a minimum or the maximum, right? So this graph can be placed anywhere in the xy plane. Okay, जो xy कोऑर्डिनेट का प्लेन होता है 2D, वो कहाँ भी प्लेस हो सकता है ना. ये ग्राफ यहाँ हो सकता है, यहाँ. So it's curvy. It has two ends, right? Twink twink. So two ends हैं. Now either these two ends will intersect with this x-axis, or only one point, which is the vertex, will intersect with x-axis, or nothing will intersect with x-axis and the graph is somewhere else without intersecting the x-axis. There can be three possibilities of graph positioning in the xy plane. So हमारे पास ना quadratic formula है. It's called the quadratic formula and it's also called as discriminant, क्योंकि वो discriminate करता है और बताए. discriminate मतलब क्या, जो हमें कैटेगरी बताए, मतलब ये है, ये है. कुछ ऐसा बताए. Okay, so there is one discriminant which is quadratic formula भी कहते हैं. Minus, sorry, not minus, b square minus 4ac. This is the discriminant. हमारे पास क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन है, b है, c है, a है, डालो इसमें b स्क्वायर माइनस 4ac. अगर ये पॉजिटिव है, ओके, इसकी वैल्यू अगर पॉजिटिव आती है, सो देर आर टू रूट्स फॉर द क्वाड्रेटिक फंक्शन. अगर इसकी वैल्यू 0 आती है, मतलब क्वाड्रेटिक फंक्शन का एक ही रूट है, वो है वर्टेक्स. उससे जा एक पॉइंट पे ही वो ग्राफ एक्स एक्सिस से इंटरसेक्ट करता है. ओके, इफ 0 then one root. If negative, if the value is negative, then it becomes it has no real roots. उसके पास रियल रूट है ही नहीं, इमेजिनरी कोई तो रूट है, जो कि हम इस कोर्स में नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं. ओके, सो either it will have two real roots, or it will have one real root or no real roots. Only 3 possibilities. Okay, so there is a difference between a function and equation. अब इसमें क्या डिफरेंस है? कुछ नहीं. f(x) लिखा या फिर y लिखा तो वो फंक्शन है. अगर y और f(x) की जगह कोई वैल्यू लिखी, लेट्स सपोज है 5 और 2 और 0 और -3, any value, any real value, if it is written in the place of f(x) or y, not an imaginary something, sorry, not imaginary, कोई वेरिएबल नहीं है वहाँ पे, एक कांस्टेंट है, नंबर, रियल नंबर है, तो वो इक्वेशन बन जाता है. इफ y और f(x) is given, it's function. इफ कोई वैल्यू दी है तो it's equation. Simple as that. Now there is I told you about the roots, right? Now how to find them? So बचपन में भी नहीं, 9th-10th में ही हमने पढ़ा होगा कि रूट्स कैसे फाइंड करना है. थ्रू फैक्टराइजेशन. जो bx जो टर्म होती है उसको स्प्लिट कर दो, देन फाइंड द ग्रेटेस्ट कॉमन मल्टीपल and then remove that term out of the bracket and then form 2 brackets. वो सब it's very easy. I think everyone knows that. क्यों मैं वो explain नहीं करूँगी because it's very much easy. हमने सब ने किया है, right? स्कूल में सब ने किया है. It's pretty easy. I will tell you one interesting fact that I also came to know yesterday while solving the practice assignments, and it came into graded assignment also. So there is one beautiful relationship between the roots and the b and c x का कोएफिशिएंट b और c जो कांस्टेंट टर्म है उसके बीच में. let's assume that टू रूट्स हैं. ओके, तो दो ही रूट्स होते हैं मैक्सिमम, दो से ज़्यादा रूट्स नहीं हो सकते. ओके, सो दो रूट्स कौन से हैं हम अज्यूम करते हैं. अल्फ़ा और बीटा उनको नाम देते हैं, उनका कोई मतलब नहीं है, नो मैथमेटिकल मीनिंग, जस्ट लेबल दे रहे हैं. एक रूट का नाम है अल्फ़ा, एक दूसरे रूट का नाम है बीटा. ओके, अगर वो अल्फ़ा और बीटा को मिलाए यानी सम करे प्लस अल्फ़ा प्लस बीटा, देन वी विल गेट माइनस बी. सो अल्फ़ा मतलब दो रूट का अगर सम किया जाए तो वी विल गेट the coefficient of x which is b in negative minus b. Alpha plus beta is equal to minus b. If that alpha and beta is multiplied together, we will get the constant term which is c. So c is equal to alpha multiplied by beta. Okay, so that's a beautiful formula, relationship between alpha, beta, constant term and the x coefficient. Okay, so I was telling you this quadratic formula. This is the quadratic formula. Okay, this is the quadratic formula. X is equals to minus b upon ac, sorry 2 उल्टा दिख रहा है, पता है मुझे, क्या करूँ अब, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकती. x इज इक्वल्स टू माइनस बी अपॉन 2a प्लस और माइनस रूट ऑफ बी स्क्वायर माइनस 4ac अपॉन 2a. okay, so this is the quadratic formula which everyone must know. okay, and the b square minus 4ac is the discriminant. And one thing about quadratic function is symmetric. मतलब जो वर्टेक्स मैंने बताया ना, उस वर्टेक्स से एक सीधी लाइन जाती है, स्ट्रेट लाइन, which is parallel to the y-axis, which is a vertical line passing through the vertex, which is straight, and it will divide the graph into two equal parts in a symmetric. जितना इस साइड में है ना कर्व, उतना ही इस साइड में है ना, सिमेट्रिक तरीके से उसको इंटरसेक्ट करता है वो. ओके, सो दिस वाज अबाउट quadratic functions, equation, graph, the quadratic formula, roots of quadratic function or equation. So yeah, this was all about quadratic equation. See you in the next video.